Hello everyone.
After another long, tiring day at work, I found myself back at the dinner table with my family. It was a scene I cherished, even with exhaustion hanging on me like a heavy cloak. The gentle hum of the dishwasher, the laughter of my kids, and the warm scent of roasted chicken, this was my life, my world, and I never thought I needed anything beyond it. I looked across the table at Lisa, my wife of 14 years. She was chatting with our kids, Adam and Sophie, asking them about their day at school. Her voice was bright and full of energy, but there was a look in her eyes, something I couldn't quite pin down. Lisa had been distant lately. There were moments, fleeting ones, where it seemed like she was on autopilot, here with us, yet somehow not truly present. I thought maybe it was my fault, that it had to do with the long hours I'd been putting in at the plant. I had been taking on extra shifts, hoping to get ahead financially, to give Lisa and the kids the life they deserved. I believed if I worked hard enough, sacrificed enough, they would want for nothing, and we'd be better off. But recently, I had started noticing Lisa pulling away from me. At first, I brushed it off, thinking that life sometimes just gets monotonous with work, raising kids, and running errands. Everyone hits a rut in marriage now and then, right? It is all part of the ups and downs. I trusted that we were strong enough to get through anything. Mike, can you pass the salt? Lisa's voice broke into my thoughts. I handed it over, and as our hands brushed, it felt like she flinched, or maybe it was just in my head. I looked at her, trying to catch her eye, but she focused on her plate, carefully sprinkling salt over her food. My stomach twisted. The kids kept talking, blissfully unaware of the tension building between us. I tried to shake it off, focusing on Adam, who was in the middle of telling a ridiculous story about a frog that had ended up in his school locker. I laughed, trying to stay in the moment, but Lisa's silence weighed heavily on me. Lisa had always been the one to light up our home, holding us all together with her warmth and strength. She had a way of taking care of everything, the house, the kids, even me, and I loved her for it. But lately, it was like that warmth was dimming. A flicker in her eyes, a spark that used to be there, was fading, and I couldn't for the life of me figure out why. Was it me? Was it something I had done? Or, worse, something I hadn't done? I decided I would talk to her later, maybe suggest a weekend away, just the two of us, to remind ourselves why we fell in love. Then Lisa's laugh broke through my thoughts, but it was sharp, almost biting. Maybe I'd enjoy myself more with other men anyway, she said, with a smirk. The room fell silent. Her words sliced through the cozy warmth of our family dinner, and for a second, I didn't know how to respond. My fork clattered onto my plate as my hands went numb. Really, Lisa? I managed, my voice tight with disbelief. You think that's funny? She shrugged, barely glancing at me. Relax, Mike, it was just a joke. She sounded casual, but I couldn't ignore the sting. It was not just what she said, but the way she said it, as though it did not matter how it might affect me. I sat there, a whirlwind of emotions building inside, wondering if this was just a poor attempt at humor or if there was something more to it, something darker. Seriously, Lisa, what is going on? Are you trying to tell me something? I asked, my voice thick with frustration. She sighed, rubbing her temples as though I were the one being difficult. Mike, you are overreacting. It was just a stupid comment. It didn't mean anything. But it was too late. A seed of doubt had already taken root, and it was growing fast. Needing to get away, I grabbed my keys and muttered, I'm going over to Mark's, as I headed to the door. Mike, wait. Lisa called after me, but I did not stop. I knew if I stayed, I would end up saying something I'd regret. As I drove to my friend Mark's place, my thoughts were all over the place. What had just happened? Was she really joking, or was there something more to it? The thought of her being with someone else was something I could barely stomach, but now the doubt was there, gnawing at me. Mark opened the door with a puzzled look and handed me a beer. "Everything all right, man?" he asked, looking concerned. I shook my head, taking a long drink. "I don't know, man." Lisa said something weird. "Weird how?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. I hesitated, the words feeling strange as I spoke them. She joked about being with other men, in a way that did not feel like a joke. Mark shook his head. "That's messed up, man." I nodded, my gaze drifting, a knot forming in my gut. "Yeah. It is." I ended up crashing on Mark's couch, tossing and turning all night as Lisa's words replayed in my mind. Her smirk, that strange look in her eyes, the touch of cruelty behind her comment, it haunted me. I kept telling myself maybe I was overthinking it, but the feeling that something was very wrong just would not leave me. The next morning, I woke up stiff and sore from sleeping on the couch, my mind still reeling. I picked up my phone and saw a few missed calls and a voicemail from Lisa. After a moment, I pressed play. Her voice was soft and apologetic. "Hey, Mike, I'm sorry about last night. I didn't mean to upset you. I know you're mad, but, can we just talk when you get home? I got back from Mark's place around 10 in the morning. The kids were at school, and Lisa was supposed to be at work. I walked in, expecting the house to be empty, silent, giving me the time to sort through my thoughts. The whole drive home, I tried to convince myself that maybe I'd overreacted, that maybe she just made a bad joke. We'd had our rough patches, sure, but I always believed we'd get through them. But as soon as I stepped inside, something felt off. A faint noise caught my attention, a muffled sound coming from down the hall. My stomach twisted, but I tried to ignore it, chalking it up to my own nerves still raw from the night before. I headed toward our bedroom to grab a change of clothes, telling myself I was just imagining things. But as I reached the bedroom door, the noises grew clearer, low voices, laughter. My hand tightened around the doorknob as I pushed it open. And that was when my whole world shattered. There, in our bed, was Lisa, tangled up with not one, but two men. They laughed, oblivious to my presence, their hands on her like I did not even exist. It was like a nightmare, an image I could not escape, something so twisted it made me question everything we'd built together. My vision blurred, my heart pounded in my chest, and I felt outside of myself, watching this horror unfold in slow motion. I wanted to scream, to tear everything apart, but I couldn't move. Finally, I managed to force out, "What the hell is this?" My voice was a harsh whisper, filled with a rage I barely recognized. The laughter stopped immediately. The men turned, shock flashing across their faces. Lisa's expression went pale, her mouth dropping open as she realized I was there. But I didn't give them a chance to react further. In a blind fury, I grabbed the first thing I could find, a lamp from the nightstand, and swung it, catching one of the guys across the face. He stumbled back, clutching his head, and before he even hit the ground, the other man lunged at me. They tackled me to the floor, fists and feet pounding into me, their blows raining down hard and fast. Pain throbbed through every inch of me, but all I could feel was the rage boiling inside. I couldn't believe this was happening, couldn't believe that Lisa, the woman I loved, had done this to me. I was bruised and battered on the floor, barely able to move, but I managed to turn my head just enough to see Lisa standing over me. She didn't meet my eyes, couldn't look at me, as if what she had done was something she could not even face herself. I lay there, every part of me aching, knowing that the life I had believed in, the marriage I had trusted, was gone. My head throbbed, bruises burning all over my body, as I slowly forced myself to my feet. I limped to the bathroom and caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror. My face was swollen, my lips split, dried blood smeared along my chin. I barely recognized myself, though I wasn't sure if it was from the bruises or the realization that my life had fallen apart. I needed to get a grip. I had to clean up, clear my head, and figure out what to do. My hands shook as I turned on the water, splashing it over my face, trying to snap myself out of the haze. But every time I closed my eyes, all I could see was that horrific image of Lisa in our bed with them. My stomach twisted, bile rising in my throat, but I forced it down. Now was not the time for weakness. I had to stay strong. When I stepped out of the bathroom, I noticed that Lisa had already packed up the kids' things. "After school, I'm taking them to my mom's for the night," she said quietly, her back to me as she zipped up their bags. Without another word, she left, shutting the door behind her. I stood there in the silence, the reality of what had happened settling over me like a weight I couldn't lift. My hands clenched, my mind racing with anger, betrayal, and a raw need to make her pay for what she'd done. I needed help, someone who could be on my side, someone who could help me take back control of my life. I thought of Jessica, an old friend from high school. Jessica had become one of the toughest divorce attorneys around, known for never backing down, especially when it came to cases of infidelity. I still had her number, but I wasn't sure if she had changed it over the years. I hesitated, my thumb hovering over the call button, before finally pressing it. The phone rang a few times, and I nearly hung up, but then I heard her voice, groggy but unmistakably familiar. "Hello. Jess, it's Mike," I said, my voice unsteady. I need your help." There was a pause on the line, then a shift in her tone as the weight of my words registered. "Mike, what's going on?" "It's Lisa," I managed, my throat tightening. "She's been cheating." The line went silent for a beat as Jessica absorbed what I'd said. "How do you know?" she asked, her voice turning cold and focused. I swallowed hard. "I came home this morning and found her in our bed, with 2 guys. She just packed up the kids and took them to her mom's, but, Jess, I need to do something. I need to make her pay for this." I heard Jessica shift on the other end, and the lawyer in her kicked into gear. "All right, Mike. You're right. But we need to do this the smart way. If we go in guns blazing without a plan, she might walk away with more than you'd want her to. Are you sure you're ready for this? Once we start, there's no going back." I didn't hesitate. "Yes, I want everything, the house, the kids, everything she thinks she deserves. She doesn't get to walk away from this. I want to leave her with nothing." "All right," she said, her voice calm and steady. "First, you need to document everything. Do you have any proof, pictures, messages, anything like that?" "Not yet," I admitted, my voice thick with anger. "But I'll get it." "Good. You'll need it if you want to come out on top. And, Mike, listen, stay cool. Do not let her see that you're unraveling. This is a long game, and you have to play it smart." "I will," I promised, though my hands were still shaking. "I'll get everything together. Can we meet tomorrow, first thing?" Jessica agreed, assuring me we'd figure it out. As I hung up, a strange sense of calm settled over me. She was right, I had to play this carefully. Lisa had no idea what was coming. By the time I was done, she wouldn't recognize the life she once had. I stood in the empty house, looking around at the remnants of what used to feel like home. It didn't feel like mine anymore, it felt like a battlefield. Lisa thought she could betray me, then just carry on as if nothing had happened. But she was wrong. This was war, and I had no intention of losing. I was sitting in the living room when Lisa finally came back. Her footsteps echoed through the house as she walked in, acting as if everything was perfectly normal. She tossed her keys on the counter, her face blank, as if last night's betrayal had been just another moment in our marriage. "Mike," she called out, her voice unnervingly calm, "we need to talk." I stood up, muscles tense, heart pounding with the rage that had been building all day. I had been waiting for this, waiting for her to walk in like nothing had happened, as if she could sweep her actions under the rug and pretend we were fine. But there was no hiding from this now. I was going to drag every one of her lies into the open. She walked into the living room and froze when she saw me standing there, my expression cold and unyielding. talk?" I echoed, my voice low and venomous. "Sure, let's talk. Why don't you start by explaining how you managed to destroy 14 years of marriage in one morning?" Her face tightened, her mask of indifference slipping for just a moment before she forced it back on. "Mike, I don't know what you think you saw." "Don't," I snapped, stepping closer, my voice trembling with anger. "Don't insult me by pretending this is some kind of misunderstanding." She crossed her arms defensively, her eyes narrowing. "It was just one bad night, Mike. It didn't mean anything. One bad night." I laughed bitterly, the sound sharp and painful even to my own ears. "Two men in our bed, Lisa, that's not a bad night. That's a goddamn insult." She didn't respond, only looked away, her arms still crossed, as though she was the one who had the right to be angry. "Give me your phone," I demanded. My voice was cold and steady as I demanded, "Give me your phone." Lisa's head whipped toward me, her eyes wide with surprise and defiance. "What? No, Mike, you're being ridiculous." "Am I?" I stepped closer, my blood boiling just beneath the surface. "If it was just one bad night, then there should be nothing on your phone, right?" Lisa's face went pale, her eyes flashing with a mix of fear and anger. She clutched her purse instinctively, holding it close. "I'm not giving you my phone," she spat. Without thinking, I lunged forward, grabbing her wrist. "Give me the phone," I demanded, voice firm. She screamed, yanking her hand away and shoving me back. "No. You have no right to take my phone," she shouted. I didn't care about her excuses anymore. The lies were unraveling right in front of me, and I wasn't about to let her slip away from this. I reached into her purse and yanked the phone from her grip. "What the hell, Mike?" she shrieked, her voice reaching a hysterical pitch as she tried to grab it back. I held it out of her reach, heart racing as she came at me, fists flailing in desperation. One of her nails scraped my arm as I shoved her back, trying to keep a grip on the phone. In a flash of fury, she grabbed a plate from the kitchen counter and hurled it at me. It happened so fast, I barely had time to react. The ceramic plate smashed into the side of my head, pain exploding from my temple. For a second, my vision blurred, the room spinning as I stumbled back, clutching my head. I could feel warm blood trickling down my face, but I didn't care. I looked up, seeing her, chest heaving, eyes blazing with fury. "You're out of your damn mind," she hissed. I wiped the blood from my face, taking a slow, deep breath, letting the rage course through me. But I wasn't going to hit her back, I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of seeing me lose control. Instead, I did the one thing she hadn't expected. I calmly bent down, unlocked her phone with the code I knew she thought I'd forgotten, and started scrolling. Lisa's face went white. "Mike, don't," she started, voice trembling. I ignored her, my heart pounding as I opened her messages. My vision was still a bit blurry from the blow, but I pushed through. And there it was, everything. Explicit texts, pictures, videos. Words and images that I never could have imagined coming from the woman I had built my life with. She lunged at me again, desperately trying to snatch the phone away. "Stop it. Give it back," she screamed, but I grabbed her shoulders, pushing her back. My face was inches from hers, and I held her gaze with cold fury. "You think I'm an idiot? You think I didn't know something was going on?" I spat, my voice a venomous whisper. "I saw it last night, but now I have proof. You're not just a cheater, Lisa, you're a liar." Tears welled up in her eyes, but I didn't care. I was done feeling sympathy for her, done with the excuses, the apologies, the fake remorse. I had no idea how long she'd been lying to me, but now she was going to pay for every second of it. "Mike, I didn't mean for this to happen," she sobbed, her voice breaking. "Things just got out of control. Please, just stop. Stop." I repeated, my voice low and deadly calm. No, Lisa. I'm just getting started. Please, Mike, she shrieked, her voice cracking with desperation. You don't understand. Don't understand. I roared, wiping the blood from my face with the back of my hand. What part of you in our bed with two men last night do I not understand, Lisa? Which part of that needs explaining? She froze, her chest heaving, her face drained of color, her lips trembling. She had nothing left to say, there was no excuse big enough to cover the mess she'd created. I didn't care about the cut on my head, the throbbing pain in my temple. That was secondary now, just a dull ache against the raw, festering pain inside. I sat down on the edge of the couch, flipping her phone over in my hand and unlocking it once more. She stood there, helpless, as I opened her messages. Dozens of unread texts flooded the screen, all from names I didn't recognize. My stomach twisted as I opened one. The thread was brief, just a few exchanges, but each word felt like a punch in the gut. Stranger 1, last night was wild. You looked so damn sexy in that outfit, Lisa. Can't wait for next time. I scrolled up and found more, nude photos of her, intimate pictures she'd never shared with me. A cold sweat broke out across my skin as I opened another thread. Stranger 2, still sore from Saturday. You know I love it rough. Don't keep me waiting too long. Winky face. The pictures, the messages, the photos, they all spilled out like a nightmare I couldn't escape. There were dozens of men, each speaking to her like they'd known her for months, maybe even years. Some messages were explicit to the point where I could barely stomach reading them. This wasn't a one-time fling or some mistake. This was her life, and our marriage had become nothing more than a joke to her. Then, I saw it, a folder in her gallery, marked with a simple heart emoji. I opened it and nearly dropped the phone. Videos. Dozens of them. My thumb hovered over one, hesitating, but the fury in me won out. I clicked it, and the screen filled with images I could never unsee. Lisa, naked, entwined with multiple men. Different places, some in hotel rooms, some in our own bedroom. Other women were there too, their faces blurred in ecstasy, but my focus was on Lisa. The sounds, the laughter, the way she moved under them, it was all seared into my brain. My vision blurred, my body numb under the weight of what I was seeing. My heart pounded not with rage anymore, but with pure, unfiltered devastation. This was my wife, the woman I'd trusted with everything. I watched her, over and over, with these strangers, men I'd never met but who were clearly all too familiar to her. She'd invited them into the most intimate parts of our life, our marriage, and left nothing behind but humiliation and filth. I looked up at Lisa, who was standing a few feet away, tears streaming down her face. She had her hands pressed to her mouth, as if she couldn't believe I was seeing all of this. But her tears didn't affect me, not anymore. Whatever part of me had once cared for her was obliterated by what I had just witnessed. How long? I asked, my voice low and shaking with fury. How long has this been going on? She didn't answer, her eyes full of guilt and shame. I stood up, barely able to control the rage building within me. How long, Lisa? 2 years, she whispered, her voice barely audible. It felt like a punch to the chest. 2 damn years. My mind raced through all the times she'd said she was working late, or away on a trip. All the moments when she barely looked at me when she came home, it had all been a lie. Every moment we'd shared over the last 2 years had been nothing but a cover for this twisted double life she was leading. You've been doing this for 2 years. I managed, barely able to process the words coming out of my own mouth. Lisa sobbed, sinking to the floor. Mike, I never meant for it to go this far. It was something stupid, just fun at first. I never wanted to hurt you. Fun? I shouted, my voice cracking with anger. You call this fun? You've been sleeping with strangers for 2 years, in our bed, sending them photos, making videos, and you think this was just fun? I threw the phone to the ground, watching as it shattered into pieces, much like the remains of our marriage. Lisa cried harder, her whole body shaking as she crawled toward me, reaching out to take my hand. But I yanked it away, repulsed by the sight of her touch. "Don't. You dare touch me," I hissed. "You've destroyed everything we had." She looked up at me, her eyes red and swollen. "We can fix this," she stammered. "Please, Mike, we can work through this. I'll do anything." I stared at her, disgusted. "There's nothing to fix, Lisa. You made your choice. Now, you're going to live with the consequences." Turning away, I left her sobbing on the floor, the images of what I'd seen burned into my mind forever. There was no coming back from this. There was no more us. The next few days passed in a blur. I moved through them like a man possessed, with one single purpose, to destroy the life Lisa had built on lies and betrayal. I had no more doubts or second thoughts. What I'd seen on her phone, the filthy messages and videos, left nothing to salvage. My mind was crystal clear. I had to end this marriage and make sure she lost everything. The morning after I found the videos, I met with Jessica. She took one look at the bruises on my face, the cut on my temple, and the raw fury in my eyes, and didn't ask any questions. She just listened as I laid it all out, the way I'd caught Lisa, the things I'd seen on her phone, the lies, the betrayal. Jessica's expression stayed cold and focused. She was a shark in moments like this, and right now, I needed her more than ever. "We're filing for divorce immediately," Jessica said, her voice matter of fact. "You need to file first, Mike. It gives you the upper hand. And trust me, we'll get everything." "I want the kids," I replied without a second of hesitation. "She doesn't deserve to raise them." "You'll get them," Jessica assured me, her confidence unwavering. "With the evidence you have, the cheating, the videos, no judge will grant her custody. We'll go after the house, child support, and full custody. She'll be lucky if she walks away with the clothes on her back." I nodded, numb to the reality of it all. The woman I had loved, the mother of my children, none of that mattered anymore. She was just an obstacle now, something to be removed from my life so I could start over. Lisa had taken everything from me, and now, I was going to take it all back. Within days, Jessica had filed the papers, and by the end of the week, Lisa had been served. She didn't see it coming, and the look on her face when I handed her the envelope was almost enough to satisfy the burning hatred inside me. We didn't speak much after that. She was still staying in the house, but I had already moved out. I couldn't bear to be in the same space where she had destroyed everything, couldn't stomach the thought of sleeping in the bed where she had betrayed me. I packed up my things, took the kids with me, and found a temporary place nearby. Adam and Sophie didn't ask too many questions. Kids always know when something is wrong, even if they do not understand the details. As far as they were concerned, Mom and Dad were just spending some time apart. They didn't need to know the ugly details, not yet. Lisa tried to reach out a few times, sending me texts and leaving voicemails. All of them were the same: apologies, promises that she would change, that we could work through it. But I couldn't bring myself to respond. Every time I heard her voice, I remembered those videos, those filthy texts with strangers. The betrayal was too deep. There was no fixing this. Once, she even showed up at my temporary place, knocking on the door and begging me to talk to her. I didn't open it. I stood there on the other side, listening to her cry and plead, but all I felt was cold. "Mike, please," she sobbed. "I know I messed up. I know I hurt you, but we can fix this. We can go to counseling, we can start over. Just, give me a chance." I leaned my forehead against the door, eyes closed, fists clenched. A part of me wanted to scream at her, to break something, to let the rage inside me out. But I didn't. I let her words wash over me like they meant nothing, because, to me, they did. After a while, she left. I heard her car pull away, and I let out a long, shaky breath, feeling the tension slowly drain from my body. This was how it was going to be from now on. She could cry, she could beg, she could do whatever she wanted, but it was over. She had made her choice, and now, she was going to live with the consequences. The divorce process moved swiftly, Jessica made sure of that. She filed for full custody, citing Lisa's infidelity and the videos as evidence of her poor judgment and immoral behavior. It was brutal, but it was effective. Lisa was too ashamed, too broken to fight back. She knew she had no ground to stand on. I took the kids with me full-time, they were mine now, my responsibility, my life. Lisa was not going to touch them, not going to poison them with her lies or drag them into the filth she had chosen to live in. I would not allow it. The house was next, the one I had worked myself to the bone to build, the home we had once shared. I did not want it anymore, but there was no way I was going to let her keep it. That house was tainted now, filled with memories that would haunt me forever. Jessica fought hard during negotiations, and eventually, Lisa was forced to agree to sell it. I did not care about the money, I just wanted it gone. Lisa tried to fight for visitation rights, but even that was a lost cause. The evidence against her was overwhelming, and she knew it. In the end, she settled for supervised visits, short, infrequent, and always under watchful eyes. It was more than she deserved. When everything was finalized, I found myself holding the final divorce papers, staring at my name printed next to hers, marking the end of our marriage in legal terms. No more Lisa, no more pretense. It was officially over. As I stood there, a strange emptiness settled in my chest. I glanced around the small apartment I had rented for myself and the kids. It was not much, but it was ours. I had everything now, full custody, a financial settlement, control over my life again. I had won. But as I looked at the papers, I realized something. Winning did not feel like I thought it would. There was no surge of satisfaction, no sense of victory, just a hollow emptiness. No matter how much I had taken from Lisa, no matter how much her life had been ruined, the reality remained, she had already destroyed mine. And there was no coming back from that.
What do you think about this story? Write in comments. If you don't follow our channel Cheating Room, you will probably never hear from us again. If you are subscribed, congratulations, you will not miss any exciting story. Thank you for listening to this shocking story with us. See you again.
Bye bye.